Hello, the initiated. We have to talk about social media because a few days ago I deleted all social media apps from my phone. And the reason, as I'm sure many of you are familiar with, was that I was spending far too much time getting distracted by it. I would, at least in an attempt of defense, not say it was to the degree of addiction, but I did find myself going to it and getting distracted and certainly spending a lot more time on it than I ideally would like to be spending. And I noticed that a few minutes here, a few minutes there amounted to quite a significant amount of time. And frankly, I was disgusted by myself and I was disappointed in myself. And I realized I can't keep going like this because currently I have 2 jobs. Well, it sort of depends on how you define it, but at least 2, maybe embedded in that other job. There are many jobs within. But also in addition to that, I am a father of 2 children. So time is not exactly something I have an excess of right now. And I guess I did the distracting myself on social media for long enough because I just got fed up, which is a really common theme in my life. And actually, I think that's one of the most sort of underrated, I can't call it a superpower, but a power that we should pay attention to. Getting sick and tired is a wonderful, wonderful thing. It's kind of like a fail-safe or a security guarantee against going too far. Now, I know that doesn't always take place. Unfortunately, regardless of that, some people sometimes keep going. But the point is, if you recognize something like that happening in your life, use that as momentum for change, because God knows we need absolutely everything at our disposal sometimes to make change actually happen. So I got fed up and I deleted every single app. And not surprisingly at all, I already feel a lot better. For me, the biggest pitfall probably was going to the bathroom. You know, you go, you take a big dump, and you end up scrolling maybe a bit too longer than was necessary. Your business has already been taken care of, yet you are watching doggies or whatever else. And also, while I do schedule breaks between work, which I think are essential in keeping your mind sharp and focused when it's supposed to be, instead of doing something more constructive like taking a short walk or just lying down, maybe doing, I don't know if you meditate or if you do any sort of breathing exercises or anything of that sort. Instead of doing that, I would find myself sitting on my chair and scrolling social media. And then again, probably a few minutes too long I was spending on these applications. And let me be clear, I don't think my use was anything super crazy. I've been monitoring this behavior for long enough so that I'm quite mindful of it. So indeed, we are talking about minutes here and there. But again, over multiple times of the day, those compound, and you'll probably be shocked at how much time it actually amounts to. But even in the form of my more moderate use, it was still too much. And most importantly, I wouldn't mind the use of social media at all if it was somehow constructive in relation to the things that I want to be and do in my life. But it wasn't. Don't get me wrong, every once in a while you bump into a good piece of content, you find a good creator, and it's actually useful and constructive. But let's be honest, it's not even a majority percentage of time of your use on these applications when that happens. Even with my pretty curated selection of things and people that I follow, the percentage is still not high enough. And let's be honest, even if you spend all that time that you are on social media listening to people who are teaching you something that would be information overflow from a learning perspective. Certainly if you're consuming snippets of content, a minute here, 3 minutes there, it doesn't actually amount to a good learning lesson. You need to be focused when you're learning, and if you're going through 10, 20 different pieces of content as you're scrolling through, that's going to be a very scattered selection of ideas that you're focusing on, or, well, not focusing on, and you're going to struggle to retain a lot of it or take those ideas and develop them into something that you can actually integrate within who and what you are, to actually remember and retain that information. So all in all, even if we are talking about using social media as a useful, resourceful part of your life, going from post to post, platform to platform, content creator to content creator, from idea to idea, is not the most resourceful and useful way of doing it. And if you find yourself thinking right now that, Markus, that's too excessive, I don't need to delete the applications on my phone, I can just not do it. Firstly, to that I say, you're probably being delusional, but even if that's true, you are still spending willpower. And as we've talked about many times on this podcast, willpower should be sparingly used, and it should be laser focused what you choose to use your willpower on, because within any given single day, you only have a certain amount of it. It is a truly precious resource that we should only spend when we absolutely need to, because as strong as your willpower may be, wouldn't you like to reserve it for the things that matter to you the most? Because yes, you can spend it on focusing on resisting the allure and temptation of social media, grabbing your attention, but why do that? And yes, you can make the argument that you are building a generalized skill of resisting temptations and distractions, because I would actually agree to that to an extent, because this is not the first time that I've successfully found a solution to the problem. I'm not saying it's going to last, because this is a tremendous force that we're wrestling against. All these tech giant companies fighting for your attention, developing technologies that are ever more optimized to grab your attention. You're in for a fight when it comes to resisting the distractions. You should always assume that falling into the rut is going to happen again and again. And it's only that vigilance that keeps you focused on the right behaviors that take you away from your social media addiction, or at the very least, social media distraction. Now, I think this is a pretty nice spot, so I think we're gonna sit down here for a moment and enjoy a bit of a snack. So let's put you down here, try and get you nice and level and not have you fall into that ravine down there. This is actually really nice. I haven't been walking here in the woods for a long time, and now I'm wondering why. The last time I tried to film an episode out, it just felt wrong in so many ways, but I think it was just an off day in many ways, both mentally as well as the weather and everything that was going on in my life. So really happy to be back here. And I do know that this, for the vast majority of time that I've been here filming, has been super nice. So I'm glad to be back here. This is really good for the soul, really good for the spirit. So it's good to be back. So to go back to the point of developing character and developing the skill of resisting temptations, I think that's a good thing to do. I think social media perhaps is not the best contender to be fighting against, because it's such a drastic pull. One of the really interesting things that happens when you begin to save up your willpower, you actually find that it becomes easier and easier to resist the temptations that surround you, the things that want to take your focus away. I think most people are so depleted of willpower and using it on mundane day-to-day tasks that they are almost completely out of it. And when it comes time to deploy willpower against something else, they are completely exhausted. And that's why when you are trying to find time to focus on starting your business or writing music or doing anything creative, starting anything new in your life, that's why it feels so insurmountable, because you're so tired. You don't have enough willpower to force yourself to sit down and focus on something. Starting something new is always super, super hard. And you should never underestimate just how much focus and energy it's gonna take to get going. And this is indeed one of the most important things to consider when it comes to willpower, is that a lot of things are demanding willpower from you. It's not just one aspect. It's not just social media. That's only one bucket. There are many other buckets. There are many other things that are fighting for your willpower. Every time you need to do something even remotely hard, it zips away a tiny bit of your willpower. And if it's a really hard thing, it zips away a lot. So when you're thinking about how to tackle social media, you need to take into account the big picture. You need to take into account the fact that everything in life, well, not everything, a lot of things in life are fighting for your attention. They're fighting for your willpower. I'm trying to find some kind of a decent snack protein bar. I bought this, it looked half decent. This is not an ad, but we'll have to see how good it is. Probably have a new one every episode we film until I land on something solid. This one at least has a bit more protein, 12 grams, not great, not bad. I would ideally want to see something double that amount, but let's see how this turns out. Let's open up Macro Factor and let's scan this item. Let's see if it's on here. It is. The name is Dark Chocolate, Not by Be Kind. Sounds like a weird thing, like a weird pickup line or something, I don't know. And so because so many different things are fighting for your attention, you should try and remove as many distractions as you possibly can, or somehow automate processes so that they don't spend your willpower. Because again, once you actually find that you have more willpower, you'll feel like a different person. It feels like it unlocks a different dimension in you altogether, because you're not slogging through the day, fighting every little tiny mundane thing and decision. You're not succumbing to the wills of other things that want to demand attention and focus from you. If you remove those things altogether, you can have a massive surplus of willpower compared to what you had before. Not too bad. It's actually pretty decent, pretty good. It's actually really good. I'm getting into this. And yeah, going back to these multiple cycles of getting distracted and then finding a solution and getting better, getting more focused. I can't even tell you how many cycles I've gone through this. Like, I've definitely been YouTube addicted, or definitely, yeah, let's go with addiction. I think that's fair. Watching way too much of it, getting way too pulled in by it. I wouldn't go as far as to say I've been addicted to the other social media platforms, but definitely far too distracted by them and pulled into them than I would have liked. And they've definitely robbed me a lot of my time. They have also given me a lot, and obviously all of this content is on social media as well. My wish for everybody is that you need to spend as little time there as possible. I still think social media is amazing and it has a ton of upside, but it's up to us to use it in a way that is resourceful and constructive and that entertains us, but also educates us. Yes, these tech platforms are building things that want to maximally grab your attention, which, by the way, I still think there is definitely room for a company that can crack the code of getting social media right, all things considered. No, it's not going to amount to the most profit. Well, who knows? That's really a business question in itself. That's a different thing to solve for. If people see the value in a social media platform that actually optimizes for the best things that social media can generate, all things considered, as per your own aims as defined by you, then who knows? Maybe people will see the value in that and they would actually be willing to maybe even pay for that. I think one of the issues right now is that nobody pays for it. Well, you always pay. You pay with your time and your attention, but in terms of actually giving money to a platform, I guess Twitter is the only exception now, but that's kind of like a weirder proposition that they're doing. They're trying to put different products in there and offer different features, but it's certainly not what I mean by a social media platform that optimizes for what's best for you, all things considered, as per defined by you. And maybe from the perspective of taking a few steps back and trying to be as wise as you can and plan for a general balance of what overall can be considered to be a good baseline balance of elements for a person when it comes to consuming content on social media. But as we talked about, for me, the solution right now has been to delete the applications from my phone altogether. I obviously still have social media on pretty much all platforms, but I have a social media managing tool, which I have on my laptop, desktop, browser. And from there, I do post things. But in terms of consuming stuff through it, happening very minimally now. I only listen to podcasts, and then sometimes if it's not available in audio form or I need to see something, then it's going to be YouTube. But if you find yourself thinking the same as I did, that you're spending way too much time on these platforms, it's way too much distraction, and most importantly, you're not getting the things done that you want to get done. You're not spending enough time and focus on the things you want to work on. Maybe something creative or a business or even your relationships, your family. Then instead of going on this longer and arduous process of trying to willpower your way through it, just delete the applications on your phone, because that's going to immediately remove a lot of steps that are necessary for you to find yourself on the application. Again, if you don't have it on your phone and you know it's a problem and you're even somewhat dedicated to improving this situation, then it's a hell of a step to go back on the App Store or whatever system you may be using on your phone to install applications back on your phone. And if that's you, you definitely have a bigger issue at hand than what we're going to discuss today. But that moment, if you find yourself in it, should give you significant pause to make you think, what the hell are these applications doing to me? And for example, at one point, I tried to make a different solution. I tried to put all the applications on another page, because I only always have everything on just one page on my iPhone. I don't like to have multiple pages. I prefer folders. So I put a different folder on a different page, but that didn't work. Obviously, it's too easy to fix it. I also was using from time to time a color filter, which basically makes everything black and white on your phone, which significantly reduces the use of your phone because it's not as visually stimulating anymore, but it's too easy to take off. So for me, that worked for a while, but it was no solution at all. And if you're going through all of these hoops, it should make you wonder, like, what is it that I'm actually doing here? What is it that I'm actually trying to avoid here? How much control do these things actually have over me if all of these hoops and minor things don't actually work at all? And that should again give you significant pause and make you think, wow, I should really do something about this. And again, you can go on these services on a computer, on your desktop, if you have such a thing. And I'm a proponent of doing that and scheduling the time that you do go on social to check out what people might have written to you or commented or what other people are doing. I would schedule in a block, maybe once a week. To me, that seems like a pretty decent time slot. Once a week, I don't know how long, probably hopefully not longer than 30 minutes. I don't do longer than that, or I haven't done at least so far. It's maybe something like 10 minutes that I do that. On YouTube a bit more because I get more comments there and actually want to engage with interesting and relevant questions. But all in all, it shouldn't take you much time. And it actually, in that format, becomes a very nice boost because it does connect you with the people in your life because you get to see what they do, and hopefully you're following people that you actually care about and want to follow. And obviously, as these platforms are optimized to be super enjoyable and pleasant to use, at least at first, or at least for a moment, not for continuous stuff, because that's when it begins to corrode you from the inside. But block in a time once a week when you're gonna go on a desktop, preferably, because it's the difference in the experience is quite significant and actually, I'd say, beneficial in this way. Get connected with the people and the things that you want to be connected with, and then go focus on your life. Go live your life. Go do things. Go create. Go build. That's what this podcast is about, and that's what I'm inviting you to do. And that's what I try and encourage you to do, like I try and do myself. Now, in terms of how I've been feeling, it's been amazing. I don't yearn it at all. In fact, yesterday I had to reinstall Instagram on my phone in order to post a Instagram story about one of the reviews that I did. And I did not enjoy the experience. First of all, I don't know why, but the upload on Instagram is super, super laggy. But even so, I had no urge to stay on the platform because, again, I felt like I was feeding a part of myself that's not supposed to grow. In fact, I want that part in me to starve and to become very, very, very small and thin. And then when I do go on these platforms, again, hopefully once a week, for example, for a few minutes, I can get charged up. I can connect with people who inspire me, who educate me. I can look at what some of my friends are doing. And it's super nice in those kind of doses. Again, this is very much a dosage question. It's about how much. The poison here definitely is in the dose. And again, I want to repeat, I love social media. I think it's done amazing things for humanity, but we're in a weird spot right now where all of the responsibility of it is on the individual. And I think it primarily should be and should stay that way, because that's really the only way to lasting growth. I think, once again, there is space for a social media platform that only enforces the best parts of social media. But how to do it? So far, no company has been able to crack that yet. But hopefully that will eventually happen. I think it will. I think it's eventual. We'll just have to wait and see when it happens and by whom. But ultimately, there's no escape from personal responsibility either, nor do I think there's any better solution out there. It's the most difficult one, but it's the most rewarding one. Like, you want to be in the pilot seat of your life as much as possible, and the more people that do that and are able to do that, the better the world is going to be as a result of that. I don't think simply saying, oh, well, these tech companies need to build the systems in such a way that I can't do X, Y, or Z. While that may work at the level of using the app, theoretically, like I said, so far nobody has done that. While that may be true theoretically in this scenario, if you live with this mentality that everyone else and everything else should solve issues for you without you having to do the hard lifting, I think you're gonna have a pretty horrible life, and you're not gonna be in control. You probably have a victim mentality, and you're probably gonna struggle with building meaningful things in your life by yourself. You can't live life like it's always someone else's problem. It's always the people with the resources and power that should solve this issue for me because I don't have resources and power. If you live like that, you give your agency away to other people, and then people that probably shouldn't be having that power over you will dictate things for you. Thinking about going that way, but there is quite a swampy bit there, and I don't think we can get through very easily. I'm not exactly prepared for a swampy trek, but maybe we'll loop over there and head back towards the ocean. So, my invitation to you in this episode is if you feel like I did and still do, that these things are draining your energy, your focus, your time, and it's being a negative influence on your life, then delete the applications. If it's not amounting to a net positive thing in your life, then you should probably do something else. And by the way, this applies to the rest of your life as well. Of course, there are some things that you unfortunately can't just delete from your life, nor should you necessarily want to. But the things that you can manage and the things that you do control and the things that you are responsible for, you should remove those things. And yes, it is your responsibility to do so. Because again, if you don't take responsibility over your own life, you don't have agency. And without that, it's impossible to live a fulfilling and meaningful life because, like we said, like we talked about, you're not in the pilot seat, someone else is. And that is a fundamentally disturbing reality for people to realize and wake up to and accept. And fundamentally, the spirit does not accept that. And that's why people turn into bitter and resentful people over time, because they're not in the pilot seat and they're not growing, they're not developing, they're not taking on more and more responsibility. And as a result, they corrode from within. And again, the metaphor of you being a bottle or a vessel that holds the poison, that only hurts you. Become an active agent in your life. Be somebody who takes on responsibility willingly as much as possible. That doesn't mean these social media companies don't have things to work on, things to develop, because they certainly do. And they could be doing so much more, a lot better than they are. All of us could, every single person, every single company, it could all be so much better. But it's not going to happen if individual people do not take on responsibility and always kick the can down the road, always say, oh, it's this or their fault because what can I do? I'm just a single person. I don't have all these resources and power that they do. When enough people do that, the world becomes shit. And when you give your power away to someone else, most likely it's not going to end up in the hands of somebody who has pure intention, someone who is educated, someone who is wise, someone who only wants what's best for you. First and foremost, the power is going to go to the hands of somebody who says the right things so that you'll give the power and so that they can do whatever they want to do with that power. So we can't afford to be naive in the face of this issue, and we can't afford to lose our agency. We can't afford to lose our self-governance. We can't afford to give away our power. We want to keep it to ourselves because you have a unique perspective on life. You have unique perspectives to give to the world. And when you don't keep your power to yourself, you can't build on those things. When you give power away, you help other people build the things that they want to build. So keep it to yourself because the world needs your perspectives. The world needs your agency. A lemon butterfly. That's what we call them, at least here in Finland. I used to love that butterfly the most when I was young. Probably still do. Not much of a butterfly person, but really the pure yellow color of them is it's real cool. It's real nice. Let's wrap up this snack moment and let's get back on the road. All right, let's head down to this meadow here. Valley? I don't know what to call it. And also, if I may give you some advice from an old man, such as myself, if you're still young, or even if you're still older, and you find yourself thinking, is it such a big deal? So what if I scroll on social media every once in a while, a few minutes, etc.? If you're thinking that, well, maybe you're not ready for change. Maybe you're not fed up enough. And maybe you need to waste some more time before you get pissed off at yourself and want to start making a change. Maybe that is true. But even so, I invite you to skip that step altogether. Because while it may not be now, I promise to you that there's going to be a moment in your life when you're going to wish you could take back that time. You wish you could spend some more time with your kids, your wife, your husband, your partner, whatever. Or you wish you could build or create the thing that you didn't. That day is coming. You might not feel it now, but it is coming. And I want you to think about that day and think about the thing that you're probably going to wish you did. I don't know what it is for you. It's been many things to me throughout my life. When I was on a plane and I saw it was going down because the turbulence was so horrible, the thing I wished for was that I could finish the album that I was working on, which obviously seems a bit silly now, but that's what I felt like because I didn't really have many things going on in my life. And also because I love music very much. But today, it's my kids. I know that when my time runs out, it's gonna be my kids that I wish I could be with more. I could see more of their life and be with them. And as it has changed for me, so will it change for you as well. The point isn't what it's gonna be, because that's always gonna change. But the thing is, there are things you want out of life, and we never know when time is gonna run out. We don't get to decide that. And I invite you to not wait for a reminder to happen, for you to get sick, or someone else in your life to get sick, or some tragic thing to happen. Don't wait for it. You can think about it today. You can realize that it's a reality that is waiting for you already. And in the face of that reality, it's very easy to see how scrolling TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, whatever you may be on, doesn't quite make it to the top contender spot in terms of what you want to be spending your life on. So don't wait for life to go sideways. Take back your agency now. Take back your time now. And yes, you can use social media. In fact, I would encourage you to use social media because I think it is a net positive once it's utilized and used in the right ways. But make that use intentional. Dedicate certain time slots to it. Not very much, because in reality, you don't need very much for it. But make it intentional. It will make it so much better. It will make it so much sweeter. So if you feel like I did, or like I do, delete those applications. I don't mean delete your entire profile. That's a different thing. Delete the apps from your phone. That takes the app off your phone. It doesn't delete your account. That's not what I'm saying. Delete the apps, take back your time, take back your agency. I just saw a deer over there. If you want to support this podcast, do the usual stuff, like, share, subscribe. If you're listening on an audio platform, please consider giving the podcast a rating. And if you really want to become one of the most valuable players and you want to join the initiated, go on my website and join my membership program. It's just like Patreon, but it's my own, but it's just a lot better. That's by far the best way to connect with me. And if you need help with something that's going on in your life, both personally or professionally, then you can book a one-to-one coaching session with me, and you can do that on my website. That's it for this episode. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I'll see you next time. Finished.